Okay, good evening everybody, and welcome to the Precision Coaching Handicap race. It's capped at 3.2 watt kilos, and how we arrive at that metric is by changing our weights. We take our FTP and divide it by 3.2, and then the weight which we're then given is put into RGT, and that should, in theory, mean that we're on a level playing field. Now, I was going to race tonight, but I'm not well enough. I've had a pretty awful day. My stomach's in knots, so I'm not actually racing. What I'm going to do is cover the race. I'll jump on the bike. I have to be part of the start lineup in order to be able to cover it, but I'll jump on the bike, turn the pedals. So you'll see me getting on the bike, but I'll stop at the side of the road and then let the race commence. I'll follow it. I'll follow the leaders and I'll follow what happens in the race. And providing I'm jumping on the bike every 30 minutes, and tonight I've set alarms so that I don't forget to do so, then we should be good to go. And I'll cover the event from my easy chair. I'm a bit disappointed because I was looking forward to racing this. It's the kind of course I think that would suit me, but I'm really not feeling very well at all, and haven't done so all day. So it'd be stupid to try and race and probably be sick. So good luck, everybody. I can see in the start lineup there's plenty of the Precision Coaching team here. There's a couple of Team 3R riders near the front. I hope there's a few more towards the back. It's looking like a really good turnout with 98 riders currently online. So it's certainly looking like a nice event. Now, because it's 4 laps, it's going to be pretty fast and furious, I think. It's only 19.3 kilometers long is the race. So I'm expecting this to be a fairly fast affair and a fairly brutal affair with the hills, which is why I was looking forward to it. It's going to be painful, yes. Somebody's just said enjoy the pain, and I think it is going to be painful. Pardon me. And Kate is actually having to put weight on in order to take part in this event, whereas I would actually have dropped weight. I would have dropped down to 59 kilos. So this race would undoubtedly. What I'm going to do is, because I'm intrigued to find out what me actually dropping weight would do, I'm going to take part in one of these races when I'm feeling a lot better. Anyway, good luck, everybody. I'm getting on the start now. So as soon as we get through the start line, I'll then jump off the bike. There we go. So I'll get through the start line and jump off the bike, and then we'll get to the front of the race and see who's... There we go. We got Mr. Below pushing up right from on the hill, right from the start. But let's switch the camera around and see who's... There we go. You can see the chasing pack. So he's certainly decided to go from the off. If we zoom out a little bit, I love this software for covering races like this. It's really, really impressive, really good. And you can see everybody, just about everybody, is in the red numbers. Now what that tells you is that all these riders are working above their FTP, or the virtual FTP that they've been given for this race. And Mr. Lewis currently got a 14-metre gap. Van Spietel is closing up to him, so we'll see what happens there. But what I'm going to do at this early part of the race is I'm going to work my way back through the race and see where some of the riders I know well currently are and how they're handling this handicap. So we got Kemp. I expect him to do well today. Now what has to happen with the software that we're using here, it's called spectate mode, and to be a spectator, as I say, you have to be actually in the race, which I am now. But to use spectate mode, you can only toggle through the riders one at a time, or you can go to the front and you can go to the back, but you can't individually select riders other than by highlighting them as you're going through them one at a time. That's something which, if any of the RGT devs ever watch my videos or listen to me, then they'll know that it's something I've been asking for quite a while now. And there's my teammate, Mr. Luke. So his name's Luke Jeffries actually, but I do call him Mr. Luke. So you can see Luke is one of the riders who would normally be up and out the front, and he's currently in 35th position. So it shows that the handicapping is almost certainly working, because he's got some work to do to get back up to the front and catch up. And there's James, and James is in the same category, I think, as Luke Jeffries. And he's going to have to work really, really hard. Or perhaps he's using this race as just a training exercise. I don't know. But we'll quickly, there's Mr. Lang. And there's Kate Kruller. Now Kate is in training for riding across America. So it's nice to see her taking part in these races. But she's very, very strong. Obviously somebody else that's struggling with the handicap, because she's had to put on 8 kilos in weight just to take part in this event, which is an awful lot to have to add. And here's another, Riley. Now he's probably had to add something like 8 or 10 kilos to his weight for this handicap, because he would normally be very much up at the front. And you can see he's currently in 60th position, so he's not going anywhere fast. In fact, some of the faster riders are the riders that, and now we're into the bot territory. So we'll go back to the front. Now, what did I say as I went through the pack? I said Mr. Kemp was one who I expected to do well. Well, there he is. It shows I know my stuff, because there he is, currently out the front. Now what we're going to do is swing the camera round and see what's happening behind him. So let's see if we can follow the field. Yep, and he's got a nice gap there, nice 50-metre gap, but we can also see it on the road. Now this is the longer of the two climbs, so this gives riders the opportunity to try and break away. So we'll stay with Kemp just for a little while to see whether he can actually hold this gap as he gets to the crest of the hill. And the other thing to note here is that this graphics package that you're seeing, or the skin as they call it, this is the spring pack that RGT have released. I can't quite recall the full name of it, but it's got the word spring in it anyway, and it's basically a reproduction of the Flanders type roads with cobbles. You can see the buildings and the trees and the hillside. So it's meant to emulate somewhere in Belgium, I think. Now he's managing to maintain his gap, although FR behind him is trying to close up. So again, I'm going to try. There we go. So you've got Van Spietel has also closed up on him, but these three have broken well clear of the chasing pack. You can see the 300 meters in front of the chasers. Kemp has now been left. Now, what that tells me is that Kemp is really a climber and he's benefiting. I'll get my words out. Benefiting from the handicapping, and the heavier riders are leaving him on the downhill. Now, that's what would have happened to me. I would have been strong on the hills, but I would have been left for dead on the downhills, and Kemp's exactly the same. We'll find out in coming weeks when I actually do manage to take part in this event, how it affects me having to change my weight in the software. So we'll go to the front and see. You can see that FR is pushing on. He's got a little bit of a gap, although I expect these two to ride together. I don't think Kemp will now catch them. They're pulling out too much of a gap on him, and they're actually in the valley, so it's pretty obvious that Kemp can only pull back the terrain when he's on the uphill. Anyway, let's work his way down the field and see what's happening with the chasers. So we've got Angus Smith. He's a rider that I know, doing pretty well here. I think it's Angus. Platform 9 3/4, says James. Okay. Oh, Rob Stone. Is he riding tonight? I haven't seen him. He must be. If he's in the... Let's see if we can find him then. Because Rob Stone would definitely be a contender for this race were it not a handicap. But I suspect with the handicap system, he's going to be somewhere near the back of the... and he won't mind me saying that, but I think we'll find it's true. I think let's work his way back down through the field. We've got plenty of time to get back to covering. IK, he was on last night's racecraft training. A very good rider from what I saw last night. So he's a strong rider. And again, he's a rider that's possibly suffering from the handicapping. Golding, he's another good rider. But again, as I say... there's Rob. So this is one of the my perennial favourite riders, Rob Stone, because he comes along to the Team 3R group rides. He always pulls other riders along, including me. And although he's much the stronger rider in our pack, you wouldn't know it from the way he behaves, because he really does help other riders almost all the time. It's very rare you'll see him pushing on his own. Now, what you should expect to see, if the handicapping is working, you should expect to see, excuse me, this is why I'm not racing tonight, folks. I'm really not well. But yes, you should expect to see riders putting out between 3 and 4 watt kilos, not much over, because otherwise there's no point in the handicapping. And if you're seeing riders putting in big numbers above that, then it means the handicapping isn't working for them. Whereas normally, you see, going up a hill like this, Rob's more than capable of putting out 6 or even 8 watt kilos for a good portion of the climb. And yet here is limited to 3.6. So, and James is very similar as well. So these are riders that would be at the front were this a non-handicapped race. Talking about the front, let's go back and find out what's happening. FR, as you can see, has now opened up. Let's get him on the road, zoom in a bit. And you can actually see the rider just in the distance behind him. He's opened up a 100-meter gap, and it's growing. And the other way to check out where the riders are on the road is if you look, you can probably just see my mouse pointer at the bottom of the screen now. You can see the white lollipop moving along with the lead rider. But the dots behind will show you where the next riders are in relation to the rider out front. And it gives you a good visual clue as to where the riders are on the road and how big the gaps are. I was having issues with this metric in RGT, but they seem to have fixed it with this latest update, because it would freeze on a regular basis and I had to turn on and off the elevation data, but it seems to be fixed now. It seems to work all the time. So very well done, RGT, for fixing that, because it was really annoying. So you can see that the gap has been closed by Van Spietel. Now, Van Spietel's, the way he's riding this event suggests to me that he's an all-rounder, that he's not a climber, he's not a big guy, he's an all-rounder, because he's decent on the hills. We're looking at the watt kilos he's putting out. That's a bit high for this event, but whereas FR, I suspect, is a different type of rider, because he pulls out a big gap on the flat, but on the hills is getting caught. So that tells me that in real life he's probably not a climber. But it's all relative. Let's see if we can actually see what the gap is here. We spin round. There we go. I thought they were pretty close. Just looking at the dots on the bottom. Now they're well in front of Mr. Smith, who's a further 280 metres behind them. But there's time for that to change. You can see that they're just about to crest the climb, and then this will be Smith here. So Smith's still got the steep section of the climb to accomplish. So my guess is that if we tab down to him, he's not going to catch them. or certainly not on this lap anyway, because they're going to pull out an even bigger gap. They're going to crest the climb long before he does. And just to add, folks, that the lollipop shows the current rider selected. It doesn't show the leader. The lollipop shows the current rider selected. And there you can see Corneliussen's is just about to come past him. This is one of the precision coaching riders, I believe. In fact, tell you what we'll do, just for a bit of fun, let's... oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's the cams. As I tab down and we'll... there we go. I should have known better. There's the precision coaching jersey. It's quite nice, actually. Yellow and black. And if we spin round, you can see on the back, they've got all the sponsors. So there we go. We'll give the sponsors a look. But the way that RGT have digitized the in real life jerseys is pretty impressive. I mean, that's two of the things that I really like about RGT and Swift. Swift have done a good job as well. I mean, the RGT jerseys are very, very similar. In fact, almost identical to what we ride in real life. Looks like Caton has pulled over to the side of the road. No, he's got going again. Okay, let's work his way up and watch these riders on the downhill. Now, this is where the handicapping is going to be thrown into disarray because of the downhills as well as the uphills. So these two are going to stay together, I think, for a little while. I don't. And what I told you about the gap when we last left them was about 280, and it's now gone out to 650. So you see what I mean about them being able to pull out a gap because the other riders were on the hill. Now Smith is off the hill, obviously now, and will possibly hold the gap, which it looks like he's doing. I don't think they're going to close it anytime soon. They're pulling back a few meters, but we're soon going to get into the next hill, and then the gap will grow once we get over the other side of that. So the two leaders have got a good gap at the moment, although it does look like they are pulling them back slowly. And this group, obviously, there you go. If you can get in a group and you can do a little bit of drafting. We had a drafting clinic last night with James Ogilvie. But if you can do a bit of drafting, there's enormous savings that you can make, which you can basically save until later on in the race. And if you want more advice about drafting in RGT and how it works and how best to take advantage of it, then I would heartily recommend you check out last night's video on my channel, the OTR Racecraft Clinic. You'll easily find it if you go to my channel, and it's well worth a watch, folks, because James really knows his stuff and actually shows live during the broadcast how to take the corners, what to do, how to take the inside line, how to go on the outside if you want to go on the outside, when to sprint when in the bend or when you come out of the bend. There's Rob, he's pulling back some distance, so he's closing up on the leaders. Rob won't be far away, even with a handicap. He's a class rider. So I think you'll see him getting near the front by the end of the race. As with James is, well, look, there's not much to choose between them. They're very class riders, these two. I'm not really paying attention to the chat, and I should be really. Now, the other thing, RGT devs, if you're listening, or if there is anybody from RGT currently on the broadcast, the other thing I would like you to fix, if you can possibly, is it appears when you try to scroll to see previous chat on the mobile, you can only go so far backwards. It doesn't allow you to scroll back through the messages very far. And I don't know whether that's just my system, but certainly I'm trying to do it now to see earlier messages, and it's only like showing a screen and a half of messages. So that's something else I'd like you to look at and possibly fix. Allow us users, especially those of us that are broadcasting, to be able to look back through the messages without any restrictions. I don't imagine something like that is a big issue for you. If you're allowing us to scroll a little way, I don't see any reason why you can't allow us to scroll even more. So there's my request. Okay, let's work his way down the field and see what's happening. We zoom out a little bit and then we get a better clue as to there we go. We've got a nice group here now, and we've got my teammate Luke Jeffries is in this group somewhere. I can see his jersey, and Kate's here in this group. There she is in red. She'll be wearing the Team Lou. In fact, we'll zoom in and have a look at her. Kate will be wearing the Team Lou kit, which is very nice. There we go. Yes, and she's giving me a wave, so she's obviously listening to us. Nice going, Kate. So let's zoom down, and there you can see the best cycling kit on RGT currently, and that's the World Bicycle Relief Team 3R kit, which is absolutely stunning. And the real life kit looks exactly like this. I've worn it in real life. I fundraised in it. I even rode the Transcontinental race in it. So these riders are a fair way back. If we work his way just very quickly down, you can see that these riders are well off the back. Riley's well down the field, number 44. And that's all down to him having to put on such a high number of extra kilo for the handicap. So Riley will be struggling. He won't mind me saying that. He'll be really struggling in this ride because it's just not, it's not really suiting a rider of Riley's caliber when he's having to put on another 10 kilos or whatever it is on his weight. I know I read in one of his posts that it is a substantial amount he has to add to his weight, and that's going to make a huge difference because he is another class rider. Okay, we're going to go back to the front, folks. It's almost time for me to jump on the bike, but we're going to go back to the front and check out what's happening. Now you can see that I'm hoping to pronounce it correctly, Cornelissen's, there's the alarm going off, is actually closing the gap, or was actually closing the gap. But it will possibly open up again now because these two are on the downhill. Okay, I just need to jump on the bike to make sure that I stay in the event. Just turn the pedals over, wait until my cadence shows and my power, and then jump off again. And I can now get back to commentating. That's my third request, and it's a request I make every broadcast to RGT. Please give us broadcasters broadcast mode where we don't have to actually jump on the bike every 30 minutes. Because I've lost count of the number of times when I've forgotten to get back on the bike because I've been so engrossed in following the race and what's happening in the race. I've forgotten to jump back on the bike after the 30-minute period, and it kicks you out and you can't get back in. If it's a group ride, you can get back in, but if it's a race, you're done. You can't get back into the race. And I remember in particular, I covered OTR's March Monuments series, and the last race in the series, which was going to decide the series, I actually got kicked out about at the 2/3 point because I was so engrossed. The action was hotting up, getting really exciting, and I was so engrossed with the action that I just forgot to get on the bike. I hadn't set alarms, which I'd done tonight, and I forgot to get back on the bike. But really, if RGT can just give us broadcast mode instead of spectate mode, give a couple of us the ability to be able to cover races, because I would do a lot more. If I didn't have to jump on the bike, I would cover a lot more events than I currently do. It's just so much more fun when you're not having to worry about being kicked out, or you're not having to worry about jumping on the bike. If the short events, it's not so much of a problem, but if the longer events, it really does become a pain. Anyway, moan over. Well, it's not really a moan, it's just a request, okay? Because I think I put in a lot of work covering these events, and so I don't think it's a lot to ask to not have to jump on the bike to do so. There's Mr. Kempt. He's don't forget, this fellow was out the front, but he's currently about 1.5 kilometres off the lead now. And then he's got a nice big group chasing him. In fact, they're not going to be long before they're upon him, I think. There we go. Swallowing him up. And if he's got any sense, well, I would have been watching for them coming up to me, and I would have been raising my pace as they approached to try and jump in amongst the middle of them. These guys are really putting in a big effort here to try and close up on the front end of the race. So this is quite a good group that's come together here. Okay, let's see if we can get, there we go, get out of the trees. So always difficult on a winding course like this to sort of like try and stay with the riders. There we go. Pedro jumping off the front, but I expect this group to stay together for a little while, and possibly, let's have a look and just see what's happening in front of them. So they're currently trying to catch these two riders who are 300 meters in front of them, and they will do so. I fully expect them to catch up with these two. The problem is that we're getting close to the finish. So there we go. 1 lap left now. So we're on the lap. These folks are on the last lap. Or are they? Yes, they are. But you can see the distance is coming down. Pedro is 250 meters behind them. So I do think these two are going to get caught. Let's work his way back. There's Pedro in the middle, and then you've got this group chasing him. And I think they will catch up with Pedro. A group's always going to go faster than a solo rider. So although Pedro's jumped off the front of this group, I do think they'll catch up with him. Let's see who's in this group. Kent's a strong rider. IK is there. Ian. Yes, that's correct. It's Ian. So Ian's a very strong rider in real life. So probably struggling with the handicapping tonight. And there's Rob. Now Rob's climbed up from 18th place when we last visited him to 14th. And what is he, 60 metres behind? So Rob's going to close up that gap some more as well. You got Kemp. And there's James Ogilvie. Now he may well put in an effort as well to try and get back to Rob, although he's got his work cut out. Okay, I'm going to more or less stay with the front runners, folks, purely and simply because this is not going to go much longer. We're 2.7 kilometres from the finish, and FR's now made a good break from. In fact, he's lapping some of the riders, look. And I'm going to have to be careful here that I don't get riders mixed up, although it's the bots that he's lapping at the moment. But I'm actually surprised that they've included bots in this race, because there's certainly, you can see all these are bots. There's certainly enough riders taking part. I don't think you need bots. I think you could leave them out of this event. You know, we got 92 riders online. I don't know how many of those are bots, but certainly that's more than enough to be able to leave them out of the running. So let's find out where the next rider is. There we go. Now he's currently 116 metres behind, and FR is going to take the win here, because there's no way that Van Spietel is going to catch him, because the gap's actually going out, it's growing. Now he may pull up a bit of that distance once they get onto the top of the hill and onto the downhill section, if he's the heavier rider, but I don't think he will. He's pegging it at the moment at 120, but I don't see him holding that gap. These two are possibly not going to catch up with Van Spietel either. They're a good 730 metres behind, and haven't hit the climb yet. So as the front two get towards the top of the climb and go over the top, they're going to pull that gap out. They're going to double that gap, which is currently about 630 metres. So I don't see them closing in the distance left. Now Pedro's the rider that we saw trying to bridge across, and I don't think he's going to do so. There was a point where I thought he would, but I don't think he will now. I'm just very, very quickly going to have a look and see where. Okay, Rob's dropped to 15 now, so he's dropped a place. So I don't expect Rob to garner back very many more places, if any at all. Let's go back to the front, and you can see that Van Spietel is 190 metres. Well, it's growing now, the gap, which suggests to me that FR is the heavier rider, because he's pulling out a fairly sizable lead here on the downhill. And you wouldn't expect that to make that much of a difference. So I don't see this rider being caught. And in fact, I'm going to sweep the. There we go. You can see a rider behind him, but the software is actually foreshortening what you're seeing, because there's no way those riders. In fact, they're riders that have been lapped, I think. You can see the distance, 262 metres to, well, this is Paul Douglas behind. He's one of the riders that regularly comes along on my group rides. We should have been riding Mont Ventoux this evening, but we decided to take part in this event instead. So the riders behind are riders that have been lapped. Now, Paul in particular is capable of, putting in a really big effort and possibly even keeping up with FR, but he's been lapped. So he was at the back, he's been lapped. So there's no point in him doing so. Okay, I'm going to try and stay with FR and watch him going over the line here. So let's see if we can get him through the trees. There we go. He's coming up to the finish line now. I'll try to follow him around the trees and then we won't lose him. There we go. Yeah, there we go. We should be getting in sight of the finish line anytime soon. Whoa, this is that tricky one. I'm glad I've actually covered this one before. There we go. Yeah, it's a nightmare to try and get riders going through the start. So there's Van Spietel coming in as well. I might see if we can't. There we go. And Spietel coming in, second place. So that's first and second in. And then we've got these two fighting it out for third and fourth. Now, who's going to take the next podium spot between these two? Who's your money on? I'm going to go for Smith. Let's see what happens. They're just about to approach the red kite. This is a very, very twisty course. We use this in one of the March Monuments series, and it's very difficult to sort of like try and stay with the riders because it's so twisty. And I know I really struggled the first time I tried to stay with the riders, but I'm getting the hang of it now. But it isn't easy, folks. It isn't easy trying to follow the riders around these curves in the trees. Okay, so Smith is doing the I'm going to sit on his wheel until we get to the finish malarkey, but whoops, he's gone to the front. Now that could be a mistake because there we go. Oh, in fact, they're swapping over. So it doesn't appear that any one of them is trying to make a break at the moment. So it's like a U-turn, this one. This is the difficult one to cover. It's like a bit of a U-turn. There we go. Whoa. Yeah, we can just about, there we go. Get them going into the finish. And Smith just got it. Okay. From Cornelius. So 1, 2, there's your 1, 2, 3. Perkins in 5th place. So Pedro hasn't caught him then. He must have overtaken Pedro because Pedro was in 5th place. Okay, I'm gonna work my way back. There we go. There's Pedro. I just wanted to see where he was because I know he was on for 5th place and he's lost it now. Now I don't think there's enough distance left for him to be able to catch Perkins in front of him. See if we can just watch through the trees. No, there's not because Perkins is now crossing the line and Pedro behind him. Okay, and there's 7 and 8 just coming over the line. I think this is Ian Murray coming in next. There's Mr. Murray. And then there's Rob Stone. So Rob has made up 5 places in that last section. Kemp coming in 11th. Vince coming in 12th. Christensen 13th and IK 14th. That's a good ride from IK. I mean, it's a very good ride from Rob, but that's a good ride from IK. Ian. I don't know what his last name is. His first name's Ian. Mr. Linden coming in. It's another good ride. And here's James. So James in 16th place. Well done, James. And there we go. To the finish. Okay, and then we've got, I think it's Ian Hurst. Coming in. There we go. What I'm going to try and do, folks, is try and get everybody coming over the line to the finish. So we've got Barker and Caton here fighting it out to the line. Dead heat. And P. And then Taylor, 21st place. This is Brian Seward. Second. And then 3 riders all together here. I don't know if they're going to sprint it out or they're just going to ride in. Yet Roz is going and Deegan and then Broku. And a rider coming down fast here on this section going to the front. Let's see if we can catch up with him. Usher, Will Usher. So this is the event organizer, Will Usher, in 26th place. That was quite impressive. And there's Luke. Luke Jeffries, my teammate. A lot of riders, and Kate's just come in as well. A lot of riders coming in together. So because I can only tab down one rider at a time, folks, it's pretty slow. So if I missed you coming over the line, I apologise. I'm getting riders, but when you're so close together, it's almost impossible to try and get you all, because I have to tab down one at a time through you. Luke saying painful but great fun. Glad you enjoyed it, Luke. I'm just sad I couldn't take part. Okay, John Martin coming in. I don't want to. Kate's saying she doesn't want to gain weight because she had to put 8 kilos on. Who put 20 kilos on? One guy here had to put 20. Mr. Golding has had to put 20 kilos on. Now I know that Riley has had to put a significant amount on as well. I didn't realise it was 20 kilos for Golding though. That's huge. Jeez, that is huge. I mean, imagine the difference that would make to you, having to put on 20 kilos. I mean, that's a third of my weight. So having to put on 20 kilos, a third of my weight, how much that's going to slow you down. I mean, that's just silly. I actually need to do an FTP test because my FTP at the moment, I've been ill and I'm trying to recover. And it's about 190 at the moment. It was 201, but it's about 190 at the moment, which is pretty pathetic, to be honest. Here's Riley. So coming to the front with Mr. Lang and is it Teff? Yeah, there's Riley going under. You've killed me, Kate, says Luke. Some good chatter going on amongst the riders. Well done. Okay, so these are a few bots coming in and then real life riders behind them. So let's see if we can highlight the real life riders. There's Craig. So a small group are going to come in together here. So I obviously won't get to get them all individually over the line. We're just going to have to tab through them all as they get close to the line. Johnson, Everington, Craig, and Dawson. Until I rewatch the video, Will, I can't give you a combativity award because what I've tried to do is I've tried to flick backwards and forwards between the riders on a regular basis, and rather than staying with one rider that's sort of like doing well. So I've tried to give more of an overview of the race than looking for the combativity. Okay, so there's Dyson, sorry, left behind. And after Andy, we've only got what looks like a load of bots. Now, I don't know if Andy is the last rider coming in. Let's quickly work his way through the bots and find out. No, we've got Kay Smith here. Is that Karen? Is that Karen Smith or is that? I don't know. Let's have a look. No, that's definitely a male. So that's not Karen Smith. So there's Mr. Smith coming over the line. And then we have a couple of bots after him, Constantine. Now, I think this is Lou Ricks. Not sure. No, it's not. No, L-U. No, it's not. This is a lady. My apologies. It's not Lou Ricks. And it's a PRT rider anyway. Okay, so pair line. Mr. Usher. We're getting towards the back end of the field now. So only a couple more riders to come in. These two are riding together, Van Dorst and who's the other one? Van Meers. Both Belgians. Van Dorst just takes it on the line. Now this is Paul Douglas, as I say, he's one of the riders that is a regular on my group rides. Should have been riding Mont Ventoux with me tonight, but I persuaded him to take part in this event. Hope he's enjoyed it. We're coming into the finish now. Well done, Paul. And Emily Smith. Well done, Emily. Oh, and she's taking him on the line. Good ride, Emily. Well done. Okay. I think we're just about finished here anyway, so I don't think there's any need to jump on the bike, but let's just check. And there I am, right at the back. I will just jump on the bike so that I don't get kicked out just while finishing up. I just want to finish up, read the rest of the comments. So there we go. Won't get kicked out of the event now. And let's go back to the front end where everybody's finished. So that's your finish, sir. But what I'm going to do now, don't go away, stay with me, because I'm now going to pull up the website, the RGT DB website, so that you can see the results in real time. So let's head on over to the website. Come on, why aren't you working? There we go. Okay, so stop that going off. It's nice to know my alarms are working. Where is it? Did I miss it? Was it on page 1? Oh no, it'll be on the results, of course, because people are finishing. Or will it? Sometimes you have to flick between the different pages here. No one. Oh, yeah, where's Calf Clinic? No, can't see it here. So it must be under events still. There's my group ride. Oh, 11 people taking part on the Mont Ventoux. That's a good turnout. I should have been there, but obviously I decided to support this race instead. And I can't see this ride. Am I missing something here? Oh, there we go. We got it. We've got it. Here we go, guys and girls. So this is the live results. And you can see your 1, 2, 3 there. FR in first place. Jonas van Spietel in second. And Angus Smith, I thought it was Angus, in third. Angus is another rider that turns up on the Team 3R group rides. So a good egg. But for me, one of the, if Will Hooker is listening, Rob Stone put in a huge effort at the end of this ride to climb up the rankings. I mean, when you consider that he was back in 44th place and had to work his way through the field, you've got to consider him for the combativity award, because that's huge. I watched him and never thought he would get so high up the leaderboard, because he was so far behind. So to get to that place in the finishing stands, and James as well, James Ogilvie, was way down the field along with Rob, and he's finished in 16th place. So superb ride. Richard Golding putting in a great ride. And obviously Kate. Is Kate the first lady to Yeah, I can't call it because it's difficult to know if people haven't put the full names down. But Kate is possibly the first lady finisher. Okay, folks, that is just about it. I'll say good night to you all, but before I do so, if you could, I'll just bring it up on screen for you. If you could hit the like button for me, please. And if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing, because if we can grow the channel, we can push RGT out to more viewers. And then I'm going to pull it up again on screen for you. Also, take a look at Tom CC's website, because their cycling jerseys are absolutely superb. And that's it for tonight. I'm back again tomorrow when I'm covering the Launchpad ride, and I'll actually be riding that tomorrow night if I'm well enough. The Launchpad, the way that works is we start out at 1 watt kilo for the first 15 minutes, and then we up it to 1.5 watt kilos for the next 15 minutes, and then we basically finish off around about that watt kilo, maybe a little bit higher, maybe little bit lower, depending on who's come along and what people want. But the reason why it's called the launch pad is because when I first started that ride many years ago over on Swift, we used it as the launch pad for new riders coming into virtual cycling. And so I thought I'd try the same here on RGT. So if you are a relative newcomer, or you're recovering, or you want a recovery ride, consider coming along to the launch pad. It starts the same time this race started, at 1900 GMT, 2000 or 8 p.m. CET, Central European Time, and it runs for, well, as I say, 30 minutes for the first part of it, and we generally finish off with about 3 or 4 laps. So we can run up to about 50 minutes if you want to, but you can also jump out at the 30-minute point. So it's a really great ride for newcomers, or for those recovering from injury, or just for those that want an easy leg spinner, which is what I use it for. So on that note, folks, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Hope you've enjoyed the broadcast. I've certainly enjoyed covering it. It's been different, let's put it that way. It's a very short event, so it doesn't give me as much time as I would like to jump backwards and forwards through the field, but I don't think I've done a bad job. Okay, that's it. I'm done. Catch you all later.